Hey everyone, I'm the UndershirtMan. Today, we're talking about Falloff damage, which is an alternate form of damage dealt to players under specific circumstances in Splatoon 2. My goal is to provide information that's useful to players of any skill level, and to help take advantage of this technique to enhance gameplay when appropriate. Please enjoy the video. To fully grasp the concept of Falloff damage, first, we need to briefly discuss effective range. Each main weapon has its own effective range, meaning the entire distance that the maximum damage output is maintained. The reticle in the middle of the screen can be used to easily determine the effective range of most weapons. To check the effective range of a weapon, try this quick test for yourself. Face toward a dummy in the training room, then slowly back away from it until you no longer see the X in the middle of the reticle. This means you've just stepped outside the effective range of your weapon. Now, any shots fired between this point and any further distance will result in falloff damage. Falloff damage is one of many forms damage can take. Some other damage types are base damage, passive damage, and splash damage. Falloff damage is a weaker attack that occurs when a player is hit by a shot once it has traveled beyond the effective range of the main weapon in use. Even though it results in less damage upon contact, it's a technique that's useful in various scenarios, like when attempting to hit opponents that are in difficult positions to reach. As stated before, every weapon has an effective range. However, not all weapons are affected by falloff damage. This means that these weapons have a consistent damage output no matter the circumstances. The weapons that are unaffected by falloff damage are Exploshers, Blobbers, Tentabrillas, Chargers, and Blasters. As for weapons that are affected by falloff damage, the further the bullets travel beyond the effective range, the lower the damage output becomes. Due to this, lower falloff damage values are much more common on maps with a lot of height variation. For example, if you're attempting to shoot an opponent that's below you, especially on a map like Moray Towers, they are likely to be far beyond your weapon's effective range. As a result, the significant reduction in damage will most likely increase the number of shots required to splat an opponent. As we move forward, keep in mind that all damage values listed assume that the main power-up ability is not being used. Every weapon has its own maximum and minimum damage output. After a bullet has traveled long enough, it will eventually hit its minimum falloff damage value. Here's a chart I've put together, showing several statistics for each weapon affected by falloff damage. For many weapons, the minimum falloff damage is half of the maximum damage. This means that most weapons at minimum damage will approximately take twice the normal amount of shots to splat opponents. The other cells in the chart, marked in blue, refer to differences in maximum and minimum damage other than one half. Notably, the brush and roller classes seem to be the most severely impacted by falloff damage. Feel free to pause the video now if you would like to take a closer look and find a specific weapon's stats. The Slosher class is quite distinct when it comes to falloff damage. Sloshers, Tri-Sloshers, and sloshing machines are only affected by falloff damage when attacking from above. Therefore, damage reduction only occurs if a slosh hits an opponent below the starting height of the original attack. Any attack that lands above the initial slosh's starting point will not have reduced damage, unlike other weapons affected by falloff damage. Due to this odd property, these three types of sloshers can attack with falloff damage even when they are within their effective ranges. Additionally, here's a quick fun fact. The sloshing machine is the only weapon in the game that is capable of performing attacks that can either be affected or unaffected by falloff damage. Direct sloshing machine attacks are affected by falloff damage, while indirect attacks are not. Falloff damage should be a key consideration during your gameplay for several reasons. Being knowledgeable about the range of potential damage values of weapons, especially your own, is extremely important. With most weapons, you can't always guarantee that you will only land maximum damage shots during an engagement. Hiding behind cover is a common occurrence during matches when recovering health or sharking around. Falloff damage shots can be used to combat these strategies by reaching awkward angles that normally can't be accessed without changing positions. Falloff damage is an ink-efficient alternative to using bombs to check an area for an opponent. Even if you don't manage to hit an opponent, you can still force them to move away or repaint an area to avoid taking passive damage. The map is also particularly helpful when paired together with falloff damage. When a weak opponent disengages from a fight and heads behind cover, the map can be used to briefly reveal their location. You can then use fall-off damage to finish them off without putting yourself in the line of fire. Most importantly, fall-off damage will train you to properly predict movement rather than react to it. Some players tend to shoot at what they see instead of attempting to account for future actions. Incorporating fall-off damage into your gameplay is an excellent way to learn that you don't necessarily have to see an opponent to know where they'll be going next. Fall-off damage is an immensely valuable technique that every player should consider adding to their arsenal of gameplay tactics. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you found everything discussed to be informative and useful. If so, consider giving the video a like, leaving a comment about your favorite fall-off damage tip, and subscribing if you want more content just like this in the future. See you next time!